Mid-July is when summer starts getting strange. The heat is up, the woods are thick, the water looks darker than it should, and somewhere in a lab or a cave or a cursed corner of the internet, something is changing shape. This week, horror history gives us experiments that should never have happened, animals that refuse to stay harmless, bodies that turn against themselves, vampires treated like an outbreak, and one little movie that convinced audiences a few missing kids might actually be real. So, keep the flashlight steady, don't follow the strange noise in the trees, and if a scientist tells you everything is perfectly under control, run. Welcome back to This Week in Horror History, your weekly time machine through the creepiest anniversaries in film, TV, books, and games. I'm your host, Enrique Couto, and tonight we're talking about July 13th through 19th. Coming up, Burt Lancaster turns an island into a laboratory of nightmares. Stephen Graham Jones delivers one of modern horror literature's sharpest supernatural reckonings. A killer whale decides revenge is not just for people anymore. And one of the great sci-fi horror classics reminds us that one tiny little fly can ruin everything. Then, right after the break for our deep cut spotlight, Guillermo del Toro has a vampire series where the monster isn't romantic at all. It's biological. July 13th, 1977, the island of Dr. Moreau opens in U.S. theaters. And H.G. Wells's nightmare of science without conscience gets a sweaty, albeit pulpy, 70s makeover. Burt Lancaster plays Moreau, the kind of doctor who looks at nature and decides it would be better if he personally rearranged it. His island is full of creatures caught between animal and human, between instinct and obedience, between being alive and being a failed experiment. That's what still gives the story its bite. It's not the monster makeup, it's the horror of authority with no morality, of a man so convinced he's improving life that he never notices he's become the monster at the center of the island. That makes the island of Dr. Moreau worth revisiting in its film version or giving it a quick read. As a 90s kid, I have to admit that the 1977 The Island of Dr. Moreau was one of the first quote-unquote old movies that actually kind of got under my skin and made me creeped out, so it's always had a special place in my horror heart, so to speak. And if you want to give it a watch or check it out for the first time ever, it is streaming on Amazon Prime Video with your subscription or MGM Plus with your subscription, as well as free on Tubi TV or to rent or buy at the usual suspects like Apple TV and Fandango at home. July 14th, 2020. The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones is published, and modern horror literature gets a story that feels like a curse tightening one breath at a time. The novel follows four Blackfeet men haunted by something they did years earlier, an act of violence that refuses to stay buried. What returns is not just guilt, it has memory, purpose, and antlers in the dark. What makes this book stand out is the way it blends supernatural revenge with identity, grief, tradition, masculinity, and the terror of consequences arriving long after you thought you had escaped them. It's available in print, ebook, and audiobook editions through all major booksellers, library apps, and audiobook platforms. So give it a listen and get creeped out. July 15th, 1977, Orca opens in New York, and the post-Jaws creature feature wave gets stranger, angrier, and weirdly tragic. This is not just a killer whale movie. It's a revenge movie where the whale has the clearest emotional motivation of the entire cast. A human hunter does something unforgivable, and nature answers back with intelligence, patience, and a very personal grudge. Orca is bizarre, but in the best kind of drive-in movie way. It's part ocean thriller, part eco-horror, then part operatic revenge tragedy. It asks what happens when the animal you underestimate is not just dangerous, it has a memory, especially for human faces. I have long been a huge celebrator of Orca. I think it's a surprisingly scary Jaws knockoff, and this is another one that, as a 90s kid, it creeped me out a lot. The orca attacking people, knocking their homes into the water, causing a gas explosion. It's as freaky and fun as it is ridiculous and mean-spirited. I don't know if I've ever given a film a bigger thumbs up to give it a watch, but I've always loved Orca. It's available to rent or buy on Prime Video, Apple TV, and Fandango at home, or if you're like me and you're very obsessive, you already have the 4K UHD. If you've never seen Orca, give it a watch, and if it's been a while and you remember not liking it, shut your mouth and give it another watch. You can email me at weeklyspooky@gmail.com and tell me if your new viewing ruined your day, and I'll gladly apologize. But maybe with my fingers crossed behind my back. July 16th, 1958, The Fly releases in the United States, and science fiction horror finds one of its cleanest but cruelest ideas. A scientist builds a teleportation machine, a fly enters at the wrong moment, let's say, and suddenly the dream of human progress becomes a nightmare of mixed bodies and identities, all from one terrible little mistake that can never be undone. The Fly works because the horror is simple and it's devastating at the same time. It's not about a madman trying to become God. It's about a brilliant man who reaches too far, then realizes the universe has answered him with, I guess, kind of a joke that is so awful it becomes a tragedy. I've always loved The Fly, whether we're talking about the original or the incredible Cronenberg remake from the 80s, as well as that sequel. I'm a big Fly lover, and if you are not a Fly lover, well, that's your problem. But if you want to give it a watch for the first time or a review, it is streaming on YouTube TV, or you can rent and buy it at Prime Video, Apple TV, and of course, Fandango at home. Tomorrow on Weekly Spooky, some nightmares fade when you wake up. Others are warnings. In tomorrow's story by Michael Kelso, an ordinary delivery driver wakes up from a horrifying dream in which a massive, demonic creature tears him away from his truck and drags him screaming into the woods. It feels real. The road, the bridge, the monster's teeth, but morning comes, his family is safe, and the nightmare begins to fade away. Until, of course, his next late delivery run comes up. As the truck carries toward that same stretch of highway, Every mile feels familiar, every shadow between the trees feels wrong, and his 8-year-old daughter keeps begging him not to go. She knows someone is waiting for him. She knows when he passes the bridge, and somehow she knows what he sees, watching from the woods. Now a father desperate to get home must drive directly toward the place where his nightmare ends, while something huge, hungry, and impossibly patient waits beside the road for its second chance. Driving a truck can be a nightmare, literally, by Michael Kelso, premieres tomorrow right here at Weekly Spooky. So make sure you're subscribed, keep your eyes on the road, and don't stop near that bridge. Trust me. All right, my spookies. Make sure you're subscribed on your favorite podcast app because that's the story tomorrow, and I know you'll enjoy it. Now it's time for a quick breather. We're going to July 13th, 2014. A plane lands. The passengers are dead, the CDC gets called in, and what looks like an outbreak is actually something much older, hungrier, and harder to kill. All right, we're back. Let's get into it. On July 13th, 2014, The Strain premieres on FX, and vampires get dragged out of the Velvet Cape and into the quarantine zone. Created by Guillermo del Toro and Chuck Hogan, the series begins with an instantly creepy hook. A passenger lands at JFK with the lights off, the shades down, and almost everyone on board dead. That opening gives the show its best flavor. This is vampire horror treated like a public health emergency. The monster isn't mysterious because it sparkles or seduces. It's terrifying because it spreads, it infects bodies, it turns a city into a feeding ground while officials argue, deny, and react too late. The Strain is at its best when it leans into that collision between ancient evil and modern systems. You have CDC language, emergency protocols, news spin, old world vampire lore, and Del Toro terrorizing you with his creature designs. All of that mashes together to make quite a fun ride, and the vampires themselves are nasty. They are not romantic predators. They're biological nightmares. Parasitic, pale, hungry things that make the neck bite feel almost quaint. This is some fun horror goodness, and actually, as I've been talking about it, I'm realizing I really want to revisit The Strain. No fooling, I kind of want to watch that, maybe show it to Rachel. If you want to give it a first-time watch or binge it yet again, it's pretty easy to do so. It's streaming on Hulu or Disney+, AMC+, Shudder, or of course you can rent or buy the seasons on Prime Video, Apple TV, and Fandango at home. Now it's time to light a black candle for some horror-related birthdays. Up first, born on July 13th, 1940, it's Patrick Stewart. Now, I am a lifelong Star Trek fan, but the guy is genre royalty, with horror and thriller films in the oeuvre, including Tobe Hooper's Life Force. Yeah, Patrick Stewart's in Life Force, the one about the naked space vampire woman, and also Green Room, which that film holds up great, makes you feel sick to your stomach and scared all at once. I love me some Green Room, and Patrick Stewart playing the leader of the skinhead Nazi gang was brilliant casting and way outside of type. He brings gravitas even when everything around him is going feral and maybe is silly at the same time, so a very happy birthday to Patrick Stewart. Born on July 15th, 1936, is Larry Cohen. In my opinion, one of the most underrated creatives in all of cinema, not just horror films. The guy had a wild independent mind which brought us It's Alive, Q, The Stuff, and some of horror's strangest big ideas on small budgets. The guy was a script-writing machine. He also wrote the screenplay for Uncle Sam. He wrote the screenplay for Ambulance. He wrote the screenplay for Phone Booth. The guy deserves to be a legend, and I believe in many's eyes he is. So a very happy birthday, Larry Cohen. Born on July 16th, 1971, it's Corey Feldman. That's right, one of the Coreys, a childhood face of 80s genre chaos, really, from Friday the 13th, the final chapter, to The Lost Boys, to, Gremlins. It's easy to forget Corey was in a lot of horror films when he was a young kid, and I don't know, it's hard sometimes to connect that face to the Michael Jackson dancing guy that he became in the 90s, etc., etc. Corey Feldman there's a lot to say about the guy, but he is certainly horror royalty and deserves to be on this list, so happy birthday, Corey Feldman. And finally, born on July 18th, 1940, James Brolin, forever tied to haunted house cinema through his starring role in one of the quintessential haunted house films, The Amityville Horror. I mean, if that doesn't make you horror royalty, nothing would. So a very happy birthday, James Brolin. And all of our horror history birthdays this week. For our then and now this week, horror is evolution in fast forward. 1977 gives us Science Without Mercy on Dr. Moreau's Island. Then nature striking back in Orca. 1958 gives us the body as a failed experiment in The Fly. 2020 gives us guilt as a living curse in The Only Good Indians. And 2014 gives us vampires as an outbreak, something ancient wearing the language of modern panic. Different monsters, same warning. Once something changes, it may not change back. And for our weekly recommendation, we're heading back to July 14th, 1999, when the Blair Witch Project opened in its limited release. If you want one movie to queue up for this week, I gotta tell you, it would be the Blair Witch Project. It opened in a limited release on July 14th, and horror marketing was really never the same again. The genius of the Blair Witch is how small it feels. 3 student filmmakers, a camera, the woods, a local legend. No big monster reveal, no clean answer, just dread piling up in little pieces until the audience starts doing all the scary heavy lifting themselves. And that allows it to still hold up very well to this day. It also understood the internet before most movies even knew how to use it. It blurred fiction and reality so effortlessly that the story didn't just live on screen, it spread through message boards, rumors, fake missing persons materials, and, of course, word of mouth. It's such a great film, such a fun film, such a great blueprint for modern found footage horror, and every time I revisit it, I like it more. Just make sure you also give a rewatch to the documentary, or I guess mockumentary, The Curse of the Blair Witch first, because it really primes you to be spooked out. I love that Blair Witch Project. It's available to watch right now on HBO Max with your subscription, or to rent or buy on Prime Video, Apple TV, and... Did you hear that? Who's out there in the dark? Oh, it's just Fandango at home. Well, my spookies, that was your trip through July 13th to 19th in horror history. Make sure you stop back by tomorrow, Wednesday, for a brand new horror story from Michael Kelso all about nightmares coming to life and, taking a bite. Subscribe on your favorite podcasting app because there's something spooky every single day of the week right here at Weekly Spooky. And we sure are happy to have you. And I'll be right back here next week with another dive into horror history. So until then, remember, our days are numbered. Because that's how we tell them apart. See you next week.